Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Depo Regional Council.
First of all, roads. Now, there was a $50 million announcement a while ago, but more recently, I believe there was an announcement about $15 million specifically going to councils, certain councils in New South Wales, to help fix the roads. Now, is this something we've missed out on, or is this something we can apply for as Depo Council?
No, the $15 million was really targeted at areas that have been very badly hit, and we're talking about some places like Forbes, like Eugowra, for example, where the roads have been absolutely devastated in a very short period of time. And I don't have a major problem with that. This was really emergency funding for those small number of councils, maybe about $2 million each for those councils. But when you talk to some of those areas, and I've actually in the last few days had discussions with Kevin Beattie from Combined Shire, which is where Eugowra is located. It was only a week or two ago I was talking to Phyllis Miller, the Mayor of Forbes, and just hearing the devastation in areas like that, and obviously seeing the items on the news and seeing the devastation in some of those areas, then I really don't have a problem from a Depo Regional Council perspective with some emergency funding going to those areas. Depo didn't receive that money, or didn't receive any of that money, but Depo's roads in poor condition as they are did not get hit with the floods in the same way that some of those locations have been devastated by those floods. It doesn't mean there's no more money coming. You quite correctly stated that there was $50 million announced by Sam Farraway a few weeks ago. That's shared amongst 95 councils, so we'll certainly get a part of that. We were allowed to apply for that, and we'll certainly get a part of that. But this $15 million I see as really just a one-off emergency funding for those councils to really try and help them get back on track. If I had the choice between being devastated, like some of those council areas were, and receiving the $15 million, or missing some of that devastation, for the sake of our residents, I would take the missing the devastation every single time.
No, that's exactly right, and I think that makes sense entirely. And I believe Sam Farraway also announced some extra road crews. Are we going to benefit from that?
Again, I'm not sure exactly the detail on that. Sometimes when governments make these announcements, the details come at some stage later. I would imagine that some of those road crews, again, would be sent into those really devastated areas. And when I say that, don't get me wrong, I know that our roads are in poor condition. The roads across the state are in poor condition. It's not as if you drive outside the Depo local government area and suddenly the roads turn into beautiful, smooth highways. The roads across the entire state, in fact across the entire eastern seaboard, are in a poor condition. So there are some things that need to be done by the government, and bringing different road crews is one of those solutions. But again, I think at this stage that announcement relates specifically to those areas that have been absolutely devastated by these floods.
No, that's fair enough. So has Council got immediate plans? Like, what are your priorities in terms of roads in the region?
Well, that is a really tough question. We've got 2,760 kilometres or thereabouts of roads across our local government area. So it's a large road network. Some of those roads are unsealed. Some of those roads are classified as local. Some are regional. Some are state, which we can't touch the state roads. They're controlled by the state government. We have got prioritisation across those roads, but unfortunately that prioritisation seems to be changing almost daily because the roads are changing on such a high frequency. So it is hard to keep on top of exactly the worst areas and the areas that are used the most with the worst areas. And then you've got the additional complexity of certain roads that need to be able to be used by farmers, for example, to get cattle in or to get crops off and then transported out. So you've got this changing dynamic. Our staff are absolutely flat out trying to maintain the roads to a level that's acceptable while also looking at that priority level. So it is something that we're using all our funds at the moment. We've got $28 million in our current budget for this year to spend on the roads. We will spend all of that definitely. The extra money announced by Sam Farraway, part of that $50 million, that will add to that $28 million. And I'm sure there'll be some more funding announcements coming, but we're also looking at what we can do with short and medium terms for various roads and coming up with some different innovative ideas to try and fix those roads as well.
Great. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Roads are a problem, there's no doubt about it. We'll just keep working away as best we can to try and solve that problem. But all I would say to residents is please be patient and please drive to the conditions.
Now, Dubbo Day Awards last night. How did that go?
Depo Day is a celebration of lots of great people that have done fantastic things over a number of years in Dubbo. It all started back in 1999, which was the sesquicentenary of Dubbo being declared a village. Way back in 1849, on the 23rd of November, Dubbo was officially gazetted as a village. So the 150th anniversary had a whole range of celebrations. One of the things that occurred was the awarding of some Dubbo 150 certificates. Now, those certificates were awarded to people who had achieved great things or helped with Dubbo, basically being contributors to Dubbo over those years. And it was very successful and everyone thought it was a wonderful event. And afterwards, the council of the day said, well, that was a great event, but there's more people that contribute to Dubbo. Do we need to wait another 150 years to recognise some of these great achievers? So from 2002, it was decided to do what was then known as the Dubbo Day Awards, where basically people that had been making these contributions to Dubbo were given a certificate of recognition, some way of saying, you're doing something great for Dubbo, often a quiet achiever, often doing things in the background. Thank you for your service. So every year since 2002, we've had the Dubbo Day Awards on the 23rd of November. And sometime after that, I don't actually know the exact year it started, but the Tony McGrain Award was added. And the Tony McGrain Award was in recognition of the fact that the Dubbo Day awardees were all volunteers. Sometimes there are people in paid employment who go way above and beyond their normal role, and they do volunteer a lot of time as well. And so the Tony McGrain Award was added to the list of the Dubbo Day Awards. There's only one Tony McGrain Award given out. So last night we had the Dubbo Day Awards. We had 10 awards given out in total. That takes the total number of awards given out in this process to 417. So it gives you an idea of all these quiet contributors to Dubbo. So there were 9 Dubbo Day Awards and 1 Tony McGrain Award awarded last night. And again, it is a very uplifting experience. I had the extreme pleasure of reading out the citations for each of these people as they received their award. And as is the case with so many things, you want something done, you give it to a busy person. Most of these people were not just involved in one particular organisation. They weren't volunteering with just one. They were involved in multiple organisations or doing multiple things. And you read out some of those citations. You felt tired by the end of it because you just realise how much these people are contributing to Dubbo, a range of ages. It's not just older retired people that are taking out these awards. There's a whole range of different ages and contributing in a whole range of different ways, different types of organisations and different ways they're contributing. So well done to those 10 people that picked up those awards last night, and well done really to lots of people across Dubbo and Wellington who are really making big contributions to our whole area.
Your podcast, can you give me a bit of a general, what are some of the issues you've covered?
Everything. And this is the thing that I've found amazing about the podcast is I had the idea of doing the podcast because there was lots more information and radio stations simply don't have the time to go through all the issues in detail. And I get a few minutes on radio stations and that's fantastic. But I just wanted to be able to explore some of those in more depth. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, maybe we could do a half-hour podcast, maybe even a 40-minute podcast. And when we recorded the first one, it went for well over an hour. And we said, well, we've got to cut it back a little bit. So when we're doing the podcast each week, we're finding that we've actually got to narrow down the topics. We can't talk about everything that's happening in council or even in the community each week. And we're trying to keep it to around about that hour. It's basically going for a little bit over an hour each week. And again, we're needing to cull some of that and make sure we're picking on just the highlights each week. And it does change each week. And it really is about what's happened in the LGA in that past week. And so if I give you some of the topics, some of the ideas, for example, then in the most recent episode, we talked about things like the erosion around the Duke of Wellington Bridge, Dubbo winners at the New South Wales Tourism Awards. You go back a week before that, it was about Remembrance Day, about e-scooters, what might be happening around there, council sharing services. The week before that, it was about roads and roads. It was about whether or not we're going to have an NRL match next year. Go back a week before that, it was about the LGNSW conference, phone calls with the Premier. It seems to change each week. Even go back a week before that, it was about the Rhino Awards, the Chamber of Commerce Rhino Awards, about the Dream Festival, Keswick Estate auctions. So there is so much that happens around the region every week. There is no trouble at all filling in that hour of, I think, interesting and fascinating information.
And have you had any feedback?
Oh, absolutely. So we're getting at the stage now where people are downloading it, people are subscribing to it, where they're getting it each week. And certainly people are telling us that they love the information there. There's lots of information. People would like to know more about roads, but there's only so much we can talk about with roads. There are so many other things that are happening as well. But I think in general, people are enjoying the fact that they've got access to up-to-date, accurate and recent information, and they're hearing it from the mayor, so it's not like it's just a random person having some discussions about council. It's someone who's in there and involved in the process, so they're getting accurate and up-to-date information.
Excellent.
So every Sunday it comes out, every Sunday a new episode's released, so you can lock that into your calendar and you can go and listen to it each week.
Where can I get it from?
Your favourite podcasting app you use, you can listen to it on that. So it's available on Apple Podcasts, it's available on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, anywhere that you get your podcast, it's broadcast on that, and that's done every Sunday, so you can listen to it on that.
Great. Thank you so much, Matthew, for chatting to me this morning. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Depo Regional Council.